Good evening, good afternoon, good evening,
Good
namaskar.
evening. Namaskar.
Welcome to the fifth edition of the Back to Work webinar series of Suburban Diagnostics. So, we have been one of the earliest labs to get permission for testing since March, and we've tested over 300,000 patients till now. And as a result of this, we've gained a lot of experience to be able to deliver some research and evidence-based plans to help industries get back into action. And I think our endeavor is to use our knowledge and experience to help industry meet its own challenges and get back on its feet. And we know that there is no one size that fits all. So here we are trying to help and understand the challenges of the salon industry and help them embrace the new normal. With me, I have some eminent personalities on the panel. Let me introduce them to you. We have Mr. Rajiv Nair, who's the Group CEO of Kaya Skin Clinic. Welcome, Mr. Rajiv.
Hi.
So Rajiv gives the panel, views on operation, logistics, and SOPs, and he has more than 20 years of experience in the retail industry. We have Mr. Sachin Kamath. Welcome, Sachin.
Thank you, sir.
Sachin is the director of Enrich Salons, and his sort of core discipline is on consumer behavior. He will bring the much needed customer's perspective in this discussion. We also have with us Mr. Veer Kaul. He is the managing director of Headmaster Salon, and he will, enrich the discussion on ways to maintain a good and safe customer experience in the new normal. We also have our, fourth panelist, Mrs. Lata Mohan, who's the founder of Spalon India and brands like Canyon Salon and Bounce Unisex Salons. She's, just about to join us. So we will continue as she, joins us shortly. She actually is the owner of 3 brands and 32 salons, and she represents the industry from the south of the country. Veer represents from the north, and I think Rajiv as president, which is Pan India, and which is mostly west and south. So we have a good mix of experience from across the country. My name is Dr. Sanjay Arora. I'm the founder and managing director of Suburban Diagnostics. And as mentioned, we've been doing COVID testing since 22nd of March. Overall, we would have tested close to almost 500,000 COVID patients across different types of tests. And we're looking forward for this engaging session. So let me start, by putting something into context that the salons have been operating almost for 4 to 5 months now in the new normal. And I think there's been some meticulous work that has been done by the brands on the processes to ensure a smooth grooming experience for everyone. So, I want to start by asking Rajiv the question on customer impact and engagement. That I think Kaya functions largely on monthly progressive sessions. So how has this lockdown actually impacted the patients and their progressive treatment? How have you tried to minimize the damage that has been caused by the discontinuity in the early days?
Absolutely. No, I think, in hindsight, we had a lot of learning, but at the time when the lockdown happened, I think it was quite a major disruption for us and our consumers as well. Now, just a week before the actual lockdown happened, Pan India, we had decided to shut down the business because being a doctor-led business, we realized the risk that we are running for our customers and also for our doctors and employees is very large. So we started getting, I would say, information right up from February that this is something very serious and this is something that is going to disrupt for the short term and the medium term. But when we did the shutdown, we were under the assumption that like anybody else, that business will be back to usual in 15, 20, 25 days. But as days after days passed, we started realizing that this is going to take a lot of time. So I think like any other business, the most important thing for us was the fact that we have to keep the trust of the employees and our customers. Absolutely crucial for us to have that. So before thinking about how we will continue the service, we had to say the fact that how do I keep the customer engaged? How do I the trust of the customer with us? There's a little bit. Yeah. So,
Veer, maybe you just need to mute your mic. Veer.
Yeah. So what we did was that first we started saying that how do we get across to the customer at the time when the business is shut down? So one was a slightly more impersonal email, SMS, WhatsApp, telling the real ground situation as to what is happening and what is actually giving the assurance to the customer that once business is back, we will commit to 100% of the services that we have committed to deliver. So how we are planning to do it, we did not really explain. We actually said, first of all, we are there for you. We will be there for you even when the business opens. We are there for you even when the business is shut down. But over time, we said this is going to go on for a few months. So we need to get a little bit more personal about it. So we started making phone calls to customers using the clinic teams who were sitting at home. We did almost 60,000 calls in the month of May and June and reached across to all our top customers, first talking to them about saying that business will continue and you are welcome, and we will make all the necessary flexibilities in the packages. So for example, a 6-month extension is something that we actually offered upfront to the customer. We also said that we will offer consultations free after customers come back so that we can reassess the quality of the skin, and then accordingly we can go ahead and redo the stuff. We also created web consultation modules at that time. So we reached across to almost 3,000 customers on web consults where doctors started talking to customers directly. So there were some customers who were maybe a little bit more technology friendly and were willing to talk to doctors online. So we thought maybe technology could be something that could bridge the gap that would be there. We created some safety videos at that time saying that the safety protocols that we intend to put in place is in compliance with WHO norms. We did shoots at the time when everything was shut down. And we used WhatsApp for Business, for example, at that time and reached across to 100,000 customers to say that this is how we plan to open the clinic when they open. So that's the story when the business was shut down. The story was quite different when the business actually opened up. And then again, we realized that when business opens up, consumer still lacks trust, confidence to come to the clinic.
So we can come to that in some time,
sure.
Majid, but thank you for sharing, what was there.
Yeah.
Sachin, how was your experience during the lockdown? What was the impact on Enrich's clientele during the lockdown?
A lot of similarities with what Rajiv just said.
Right.
But the way we looked at it was two things. We said, as Enrich, we look at ourselves as allies to our customers and we work with them to make them look good, because looking good makes people feel good. So actually our end deliverable is that feel good or that self-esteem or that self-confidence to take on whatever life throws at you. And if at all that was ever required, it was during the lockdown. And it was the time we were not there to actually deliver that to them. So we decided that the way we usually do it is by doing services for them. But if I can't do that, what is the next best thing? So the next best thing is to make sure we communicate with them. So we did that in a whole host of things. We did a customer survey trying to figure out what they were doing and how they were dealing with it. We did an initiative called Call is Well. So in Call is Well, the individual technician called up their customer, spoke to them and offered any help that they might need. When even the logistics people had not begun reopened, our operations team called customers and delivered products that they had run out of. So now these are professional aftercare products. And people want to use the same thing that they've been used to. So our teams actually took e-passes and all and went and delivered them home. In the initial things, we told people, don't try doing anything yourself because you might end up looking worse than what you look, and you're dealing with sharp instruments and so on. But as it went to lockdown 3, 4, and 5, we actually said we did through this Call is Well, we did some video interventions where we actually helped people try and do what they could just to take care of themselves. So our protocol, our post reopening protocol was also in that manner co-created with the customer. The good part was, one of the things we realized was during the lockdown, the FMCG had a great run because their last mile distribution was taped up, and in salons we didn't have that. But that is one thing we realized. So we said this is something we need to get better at, and therefore the effort on that side. But one thing that we've consistently done is you could say we over communicated with customers and with our teams, because on the employee side, our feeling was that we know that this need that we deliver to customers is going to be there even after this thing gets over. So the big thing is how do you keep the customer and your team together during this time and see it through as a team. So Those were the things that we focused on. We also did protocols, and we did some shoots, and we sent out communication, and
Right.
we tried to keep in touch and keep it real and authentic.
Sure. Well, thank you, Sachin, for that. And just to continue on that, even a person like me who has so much of hair on his head, you have a very special relationship with the person who cuts your hair, so your stylist or your therapist. So we're, in these kind of where you have a personal relationship with the customers, from your side, how did headmasters need to engage with their customers to maybe help them take basic self-care during the lockdown? I mean, was there something different or similar to what both the other gentlemen spoke?
You see, more or less, I mean, customers are similar all across, and I think we are in a similar sort of business, and the usual needs are same, expectations are same. So it wasn't anything different from anybody else. But crucially for us, because I think as soon as the lockdown happened, and it obviously it just happened suddenly, and everybody thought that it'll be over in about 20 days, 15, 20 days. Between you and me, I think if you ask me, everybody for first 15, 20 days thought, okay, that's good. It's good. It's good for the country. It's good for all of us. We need to be safe. Right. But as it sort of stretched beyond week 3, it started obviously hurting everybody. All the stakeholders started getting hurt. Especially one of our worries was our employees, frankly speaking, quite at the beginning, because how to reach out to them, and and especially in the towns that we were in, particularly in Punjab and up north in Chandigarh, it was very severe. There was no movement at all, and we very, very restricted in terms of whatever. But somehow we managed to get the administration to help us out, like you said, the e-passes, so we could at least send out to more than the money, the rations to our own staff. Everybody physically send things out to all of them, and of course we use, if you ask me, completely all across this social media, and essentially the mechanism to direct contact with the customers, to tell them that look, and essentially was to stay in contact, look after the well-being, and at the same time we would ask them that do let us know, do you need anything, do you want any help? If you do feel, we're always well.
Sure. I think we are just frozen, so maybe I'll just continue.
Yeah. Okay.
Mrs. Mohan, can you hear me? Mrs. Mohan, are you there?
Yeah, I can see her, but I think she's on mute.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, back, I think.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So essentially, more or less the similar things. I mean, I don't think there's any dissimilarity. And post the lockdown, frankly speaking, I think our approach was very straight. When the lockdown started, people started coming in. Obviously, we had the sense that, including our staff, all our people, all the customers that we were coming in, they had been psyched and freaked out by all kinds of rumor mills all over the world, impact in the United States, Europe, and then our own administrations saying that this is. But I think we were purely telling people that, look, your salons are safe. We are not doing anything more than what we have been doing in the past, because we were always known for very good practices in terms of health and safety.
Right.
I mean, all that was happening additionally was purely that you had a shield and a mask, and you were just possibly washing your hands more often than not. So we wanted to make them believe that it's the new normal that we all seem to talk about is actually the normal of the the previous period. So don't be worried.
Sure.
So I think that was the fundamental approach. We continuously kept on hammering all of them, and I said, "You just come,
sure,
take a look, come down."
Sure.
And that's all we did, really.
Sure. So continuing on that, I think while Mrs. Mohan can fix the audio, maybe I'll ask Rajiv. Going forward, the 3 basic norms that we have is social distancing, masks, and hand hygiene. And I guess in a salon environment, social distancing and mask perhaps sometimes may not be possible. So how has the industry overall overcome this hurdle where you want to ensure safety for both the staff and the customer?
Yeah. My experience both as a consumer in salons at the same time as a person working for a clinic business. I think everybody in the industry, I think, vowed and assured the government way back before the salons opened. I think all of us as a consolidated group got together and gave assurance to the government that if we were to be given the opportunity to open, we are going to go all out and do everything under our control to be able to create all the norms which are prescribed by the government of India as well as the WHO norms. So I think to some extent there were some BWSSI guidelines. Each company did its own set of guidelines to be able to comply. Now what we did was we didn't just talk about it, but I think everybody was working overtime to source for equipment and material which probably we never used in our lives, which probably diagnostic chains used a lot more, to actually source the best in class to be able to deliver to our customers. So, for example, words like Citra certified PPEs. I mean, I had never heard of the word before. I did not use UVC lamps in my clinic ever in my life, but now I bought about 1,000 lamps of them and put all across my clinics. And actually, what we did was the fact that we said we should give a level of assurance and safety to both our employees and our consumer, because while we are talking about consumers, we are also putting our employees online.
Absolutely.
And despite so much of care and concern taken from each one of us, we still see our employees falling sick on a very regular basis even today, right? So that's something that we did. So we had a couple of things. One is to provide the best of gear.
Then a blue light comes on.
Sorry. The best of gear to safeguard our employees and our customers, but also look at services which need minimal intervention for between customer and employee in a physical form. So I'll give you small examples of my industry, and I'm sure others can also add on the salon side. So what we did was we said first most important thing for a consumer is things like hair removal. 3 consecutive months of sitting at home, women must be really, really fed up with the idea that hair growth is something becoming a problem and it's just a mere hygiene factor, not just good looks, but it's also a mere hygiene factor that people want to go for. That I thought was the most basic service. In our case, fortunately, because we use laser hair removal, there is minimal contact, almost no contact between the therapists. All of them are dressed in PPEs with gloves in hand, and they are providing these services to consumers. Our fairness pigmentation, anti-aging, and other services also use a lot of equipment and machinery. So we actually have minimal contact. We also said that whatever, for example, services like facials cannot be done during this period. Can we replace a lot of these facials with peels, which are medicated peels, which can also be applied without physical touch, which are there? So our peel business grew by almost 70% purely during this period because of the fact that facials were completely down. We stopped our hair spa services. We stopped our facial services. Even today, Bombay, we continue not to do these services. So we said first focus on machine-based services, then focus on services which are doctor-led injectable services. So for example, PRPs, Botox, fillers and stuff like that done with complete safety. So we never faced that kind of a problem in terms of the physical touch. Some services consciously, I think we gave up. Things like say hair spa and facials. We believe there is a huge risk. So even today, we don't continue to use those services. In our business, also about 30% of our business comes from products. So our focus was completely on making sure that business grows. So e-commerce is an area that we focused again. And we see almost a 30 to 70% growth in e-commerce between the month of July, August, which is there. That was another way to kind of keep the business going without impacting consumer and employee health.
Sure. Well, thank you, Rajiv. I think many companies have seen the technology and e-commerce, and it's also allowed people to integrate, and to innovate into those areas. I think it's given opportunity to think differently as well. I think even Enrich, Sachin may have had similar experiences where I believe, your products have done well. So maybe you can address that. And also, how does it feel for a consumer when your hairstylist is wearing gloves and they don't get the feel of the hair? How does that, what's your feedback on that?
Okay. So I'll take this one by one. To start with, one of the very interesting things about our business is that we are a contact business, right? So before this, and even now, we kind of pride ourselves that, tech can only be an enabler in our business. It cannot take our meal away because you really can't get a virtual haircut. Not possible, right? But what happened was, because of that feeling, a lot of us in this business did not adapt that swiftly to technology. Thinking we are services, it's about people coming to us and we work with people, and tech है लेकिन ठीक है, I think what COVID has done is COVID has become the chief technical officer
Right.
by itself, and it has actually given us a push towards really becoming omni-channel. So earlier the thing was, let's say home services. Is it such a big trend? No, it is not. So should I be there or not be there? Bookings through the app, through the website, home delivery through. Are these so big? Well, let's see how big they become. Now it's nobody I think is thinking of those things. They are saying, forget about trying to get an entirely new customer that way. But now even my current customer, I need to give them all of these opportunities. So.
Sure.
I think COVID became the genuine omni-channel push for salons. So we were always about services. Now we'll also be a little more about products. So that product side will come up.
Sure.
We were always about personal touch. Now technology will take a slightly up thing. We were always about services in the clinic or in the salon. Now even the home thing will take a bit of a upswing, and we were always about offline. Now online will also become. So if you look at these four principles, which is salon and home, personal and tech, services and products, and online and offline. These are the four sets of things that we also as Enrich are focusing on, and I think this push has actually been, this thrust has been given by COVID. So they say that there is this phrase which I really like, which is never waste a crisis. You know, this crisis forced rules on us which were never there, but this new set of rules gave you the wherewithal to do things which you never thought you wanted to or could do earlier. So this was one big benefit. The second, I think, is this question you ask about, can you feel hair through a glove, or does a massage feel like a massage? Now, two things to it. One thing is the fact that you can have different quality of gloves that actually have a snugger fit, that really become, don't tamper so much with the experience. Number one. Number two, it's about the technicians believing that and them getting used to that feel, because it's not just the customer feeling it, it's also the technician feeling, am I doing what I'm doing right? And the third thing I think is purely the fact that you are setting up a new normal, right? So if you turn around and said that this is why we are doing what we are doing, and this is the best kind of equipment to use that continues to give you as good a feel.
Sure.
It's a bit of a learning curve, but I think one of the biggest advantages of humankind, as it were, is the fact that we are phenomenally adaptable. It's amazing how once we wrap our head around it, our ability to adapt is so dramatically high. So that is how I think we have. So initially we went through all the trouble. For example, Raji was talking about exfoliation, about waxing, right? In the salon side, one of the key things is not just waxing, but also threading, eyebrow threading, for example. And it's a very tiny service. It is low value, but it is very high involvement because it's on the face. And these days your face can't be seen, so at least your eyes can be seen. But that service used to be done in a particular manner earlier, with one end of thread being held and very close proximity with the customer. So through the lockdown, we actually trained our teams on two new techniques of doing the same thing without using, one using the thread but using it in a different manner, and the second not using the thread at all but using a set of tweezers. So we got them to not just learn it, but ours is a skill business. You need to actually practice before you become absolutely smooth and neat over it.
Sure.
So we worked on our teams to not just learn it, but also practice it with people at home and so on and so forth. So they became proficient in this.
Great. Thank you. Mrs. Mohan, thank you for joining us. I'm glad you could be with us. You have a very vast reach.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You have a very vast reach in South India. So, how did you get your team, and the salon to actually be ready after the unlock? What were the inputs that the team were, specially given to prepare themselves for the unlock, after the lockdown?
So we are spread across 3 cities, Madras, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. So we made according to the strength in each city, we made them into groups, okay? And we made group leaders everywhere. And as Sachin was saying, we took category by category, like right from threading to services as far as facials and hair spas, how we can handle it once we open. So what happened is we were constantly on Zoom, reinventing, inventing, reinventing, doing it again and again. So when the threading part of it came, he is very true. The clients were so excited that we found something like this where there is so much of social distancing as well as getting a threading service, because that is also one of the most popular services in the salon.
Right.
And they perfected it. Likewise, how to do the waxing with using the spatula, but that doesn't go dipping again into the same side and work on two sides. And of course, the material use is more, but end of the day, what do we want? The safety of the client. If the cartridge was used, we made sure we have something called cartridge waxing. We made sure that we used it for the service, and in front of them just destroyed it. So all this, you see, it's also a learning curve for us. Many permutations and combinations, trying to reinvent, trying to get better, compare notes with other salon owners, or even get more knowledge, read up and everything. So by the end of the COVID, yes, our girls and boys were really super excited to get back to the salon, because they were like, when are we opening? When are we opening? A, it is their livelihood. B, they also were anxious whether they have a job. That's
Sure.
another thing.
Right.
So when we opened, we thought day one, even everyone said it's going to be jam-packed and you're going to be just full. You'll have back-to-back. Don't worry, you're going to make all what you lost in the lockdown. No, it was not like that.
Right.
It was like slowly clients will trickle in, and then they will look around and they'll want to see the place. They want to see how we are managing, how are we doing it. And I would even be very proud to say that I got compliments or testimonies from so many doctors saying that you guys are really doing a good job.
Right.
So what I always constantly kept telling my staff and sort of telling them and motivating them is, this is the only tool you have to survive. Maintain your quality, maintain your hygiene, show them. The seeing is believing, So every step you please show the care you're taking on them. So we do this, and that slowly I would be also, we are really not doing the pre-COVID numbers. It's going to be taking some more time. But it is amazing to know that I got so many new clients. I don't know how many of y'all got new clients. It was by word of mouth. When we got to the fact is, we were getting new footfalls. And I used to tell them every evening when I used to see their numbers, I'd say, today you got 50 new falls. Do you know the value of this during COVID? It's like really getting an award, you guys, because it's a word of mouth that is passed around. And
True.
then I'm a person who always interacts with my clients. So I said, will you please tell them that you're happy and the place is following all the protocols and we are safe? They said that, do you know that everybody says that your place is the most well maintained and hygienic place that we are talking about as far as our brands are concerned? So I say it's not only one brand, we insist on each and everybody. So I felt slowly they started trickling into the salons. Getting the confidence is just by word of mouth. You can talk so many things, you can write, we have sent videos, we have sent testimonials, everything. But I feel an experience come and an experience done and gone, happy client gone, is the real strong point we all need to focus on.
Absolutely.
And I think that's how we are slowly growing or crawling up the ladder.
Yes.
Now at the moment. So,
just to continue on
and
that,
of course,
Mrs. Mohan, to continue on that, now that people have started trickling in, as you said, have you adopted any different processes for appointment taking to make sure that you are staggering the appointment? Because initially, people will come and they'll have to sit in the waiting room one after the other. Have you adopted any different process for that?
We do not have any waiting area now.
Okay.
And we tell them, please don't come with anyone. Please come alone. Don't bring. And if they're coming as a mother and daughter or sisters, please come one after the other, because we have only 50% capacity.
Right.
And the clients and even the staff one batch comes the one day and the next batch comes the next day.
Okay.
So it's strictly on appointments. Before they come to the salon, they have to go online and fill up a form, and then the the managers will call them and talk to them and tell them that we've got your form and we've got your requirement. You have an appointment from this time to this time.
Right.
So this is how we were operating even till today. And then many people said it's so difficult to get. We are your regular clients. Why are you getting it done from us every time we come? I said we can't help it. There is something called a protocol which we need to follow, and we still till today, and we don't want to. I just told them COVID is still there. To my staff,
Right.
please don't relax and take it easy. It's still there, but
Yes.
it is how we fight it.
Sure.
And yeah, it has been tough times. I cannot deny that.
No, but I think
end of the tunnel, the light is always there. So slowly we are crawling towards it.
and I think the one thing that I've seen is that a lot of people from the same industry have come together to share practices among themselves. I think that's probably one of the biggest learnings of this of this time, is that how people actually have collaborated and come together.
I must,
Exactly.
if I can just take 2 minutes, I think one of the huge fallouts and positive fallouts of this pandemic was the manner in which the beauty wellness industry came together.
Bonded.
I mean, we always meet during industry events and so on and so forth. But I think this time people have been in touch with each other multiple times a week. We went together to the government as a team. We gave assurances to the MSME ministry, to our state governments. We wrote in a concerted manner to chief ministers. We sent out and we made commitments as a group. And the most important part here is not just the chains. From the chains to the salon associations, I have been around for not too long, for about 10 odd years in this industry, but in these 10 years, this is the first time I am seeing industry associations of all shapes and sizes and everybody combining. We actually ran hashtag beauty safety pledge and several such initiatives as a entire industry, which I think was very great positive. I know that we've taken help of others to source stuff. We sourced stuff and actually bought equipment for other people together. So many things with it, which I think is a very positive fallout of this.
Great.
Sorry.
No, absolutely. I think I've seen that across all industries, including ours. And just to continue on that, I wanted to ask Veer a question: that Veer, do you think with this new normal, will we see a lot more home services being offered? And what's the take from your side on the need for home services? And do you think that the salon business will now actually have a business also some part which will be offered at home?
Well, I mean, like Sachin and Rajiv and Lata has been saying that this pandemic has given an opportunity for all of us to integrate together like never before. So that's actually a new normal for the industry, a new normal for all the salons and wellnesses, that we have all integrated under one platform, and there is a lot of interaction that keeps on happening. And also from one of those interactions only emerged a new term which we had a big laugh about, was a hybrid salon, which happened, which was 10 days back. Now, when we talk about hybrid salons, which essentially we were talking about salons now being able to deliver the home services, all right, which is a truism and which is a fact, and that has emerged. Now there's a wide spectrum in which we can play. There are players who are purely home service deliverers. They have no brick and mortar places like you have the urban company, so which has been there. So they have had naturally a sort of a field run during this COVID period, and they've just naturally there's obviously a market share gain for them during this practice. But at the same time, organizations like the Sachin, the Enrich, for example, or I don't know about Lata Mohan, but certainly they already had a company which they had bought a few years back, which was possibly in limbo, but naturally they had the technology available. So I'm sure they have worked on it, and it's become the centerpiece. But for people like us who are not as widespread, we are
Yeah, I think for me, Veer's
The
video
reasonable
froze.
size change, but we also.
Can I just pick it up till he gets back?
Please, absolutely.
Yeah, so let me tell you, for us, it has not become the centerpiece or anything,
Sorry.
and neither was it in limbo. But what has actually happened is, home has been a very teeny percentage of our business. But I see home now in completely new light. I'm not seeing home now as home will contribute to how much in time to come. No, I am saying today, my regular customer, if they want as an option for me to send somebody home, I should be able to do that. So it is also so much about retaining my existing base rather than finding somebody new. And I'll tell you the context. So now, let's say as we stand today, for us, about 50-55% of our footfall is back and about 60% of our revenue. What does it mean? It means there is 45% of people who last year same time were visiting our salon, but who are yet to step out. Why are they still yet to do that? It could be various very good reasons. They still need more reassurance. I know my friends in my age group, I am 55. I have people in my age group who have old parents at home. So while they might feel comfortable, they are still not doing it because I've got parents at home. I need to take care of their safety. There could be people with a few comorbidities, or there could be somebody who just wants more reassurance. And I think we can use all of these things as a way to make them feel comfortable. I'll give you an example. So if you turn around and call us and say, I want 5 members of my family to get their services done, it's perfectly fine for us to start early one day or block our salon for 3 hours for just your family to come in, do services and go. Now, let's say one lady wants to do services that take 4 hours, and her worry is that I don't want to stay in the salon for 4 hours. I don't want to expose myself to the rest of the people. I can block off one particular area, one spa cabin or some such thing. I will have to make sure to do some arrangements, but I can make sure that the only 2 people that she gets exposed to are her hair technician and her skin technician. Now, I think we need to understand what is the worry of our customers and how we can address it, because it is for us to make sure that they feel reassured and they get that comfort to come back.
Sure.
So I'm looking at home much on the same lines. Rather than seeing what more I can get or what new I can get, can I use that as an omni-channel offering? As I would love for you to come regularly to my salon, but in the occasion that you need, for whatever reason, me to serve you at home. So, for example, in Ahmedabad, one of my mentors who lives there is 74 years old, and he called me saying, I'm not stepped out, but I need to get a haircut. My hair is grown this long, and I need to get a haircut. Can you help me? Okay. Now he was not one of my customers before, and we have a salon across the road to him. He was so pleased when our team member went in with all the kit and with all the precautions, that in the last 4 months he's been with us 4 times. First 2 times we had to go to him. After that, next 2 times he's felt confident enough to come. I'm saying it has to be. Now, does this mean my home business will go up by leaps and bounds? I'm not sure. But right now, if I need to make sure I do that and keep that whole thing going, it makes a lot of sense for me to do that, purely to offer another degree of freedom to the customer and another bit of choice. And I think we owe that much to our customers. But because eventually, one big issue that this COVID has done is, one of the things people come to clinics and to salons is to actually relax. And this stress of, oh my God, safety, hygiene, this, that, has taken away a bit from that. So
Sure.
whatever we need to do to make sure, not just in terms of all the safety security measures, but in also how we interact with them, I think is so important.
Sure.
Sorry, I just got cut off. I'll just add the words to what Sachin said. The other hard reality of it is that the fact is that the coexistence of home service, whether directly employed with the companies, who are dedicated to home service, or a hybrid model of salons, at the same time, become given the advent of technology, social media, everything else, and the kind of business we are in, and we also face a there's an existential threat. Let's put it this way. I'm sorry, I'm being blatant about it because you have your own staff people who will also go all over the place. So therefore, to that extent, it has made brick and mortar businesses a little more agile, and they need to deal with this situation. So obviously, surely enough, we will like it or not like, we'll have to offer this hybrid model. People, whatever they want, they will ask for it. Whether they want a home delivery or they want a salon delivery, we will have to do this. And if we have to stay sort of in the positive realm of cash flows, let's put it that way. That's a hard reality. So I think that's the way I see it, and that's the way we have been dealing with it.
Well, Rajiv, there was a question asking about what are the sanitation protocols that salons are following. Can you probably just address that question?
Yeah, so I think all of us, typically looked at a lot of protective gear was the first priority to make sure the fact that employees are also equally secure as customers, and obviously as employees are well protected, the consumer also gets protected. So I think most of us have invested on PPE gear of various types, depending on the kind of industry or business that we are in. We in particular actually went in for CITRA certified PPE gears for all our employees. We obviously always use surgical masks and we always use gloves, so that was not something new to our business. We also used this time UVC lamps quite effectively because there was research to say the fact that there could be a good amount of protection that can happen on consumables that could be passed through UVC. So we actually dedicated one of our rooms in every one of our clinics, which is almost like a UVC chamber. So all our consumable materials which are touching the consumer or used by the consumers are actually sanitized through UVC. We use sodium hypochlorite for cleaning up the clinics completely. We tried out a New Zealand-based product called Zuno, which is actually something which is like a surface protectant, which once you put in almost for 1 month can actually not allow viruses to actually be on surfaces. So these are for metal surfaces, furniture, and stuff like that. So that's something that I would say, overtly. Certain protocol changes I have seen with clinics and salons also are the things like eating and drinking inside the salons. I think is getting dissuaded. We used to, give hundreds and thousands of Kaya drinks every day to customers, almost 50,000 drinks a month, which we have completely stopped. First time in 17 years we have stopped that. But right. That was so personal, it has completely gone away. Lot of use of technology to interact with the clinic. So, for example, digital payments have taken a huge upping. So that's the other area that we have really looked at. I think those are broadly the large part of how people have looked at safety security inside the clinic. That's sure. What I can say. Yeah.
Sure. Mrs. Mohan, what has been your experience over the last 4 to 5 months? That you've been open now. Have you found? What's been your experience both with your staff as well as your customers? Have you had any one negative impact in the sense that somebody got infected, or how do you deal with a staff member who sometimes shows symptoms? How do you address that? I think you are on mute, Mrs. Mohan. On the top of your panel,
yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I cannot deny that we had a few of our staff who were tested positive. They were asked to be on quarantine.
Right.
And also, we got the entire salon, the rest of the staff tested. And surprisingly, in some salons, we found people who were asymptomatic.
Right.
Which was a shock for them also. We put them in quarantine and we asked them to stay home. Yes, customers do always ask us, is everybody fine? But we also have to be worried about who comes into our salon. That part of it also is very important. Right. So when we ask these questions and we ask them the questionnaire, some of them are not very open to it. They're a little bit sort of push back and say, why do you want this information? As I told you earlier. But having said that, I think that's also a very, very important route to make sure that we both are safe. But yes, the way we manage ourselves is right from everything what Sachin and Rajiv said, but we don't do this high technology of having a covering on the floor or the furniture. but we definitely do our mopping, cleaning every hour. And whether I am there or not, they have to do it at least 4 to 5 times, and it's captured on video and it's sent to me any part I am, to show that 4 o'clock cleaning, 2 o'clock cleaning, 12 o'clock cleaning, closing down. So in a day, I would get something like about, not an exaggeration, 800 to 900 videos. And so will the area managers and managers.
I just wanted to add one thing. Sorry, please continue. I'll do it.
So we keep doing this, and the clients also keep seeing that they're mopping, cleaning, and all the chairs are disinfected. I make them I always keep insisting that let your clients see what you're doing.
Right.
Remove the gloves, sanitize your hands. Take a fresh piece, put a fresh mask. Of course, we give them also PP kit. We give them aprons, shoe covers, and masks. Everything is done. And of course, the sanitization happens in front. Every comb, every brush is covered. They sanitize in front of them. Put them under the sterilizers. We have installed even autoclave machines now, which was not there earlier, pre-COVID. Now it is an investment, but I think it's an investment worth, because it also gives us a good feeling that it's all purely done. And they have got the kits marked according to the services. If it's a facial, they have a complete kit. So they're not dabbling with other product. You just take that kit and give it to the client. So she has
a unidose kit or a monodose kit.
Yeah, we have made our own things, like for waxing the strips, the gowns, the shoes, everything, and then they sanitize the bed in front of her. We do not put any more sheets over it. We clean it up with the sanitizer and we put a fresh disposable sheet, and then she uses it. Even the clothes she brings, we give her a brown paper bag. She keeps it there, and then when she goes, she wears it and go. With regards to our staff, they all supposed to come up, change, and then wear the uniforms. Nobody's allowed to come in their uniforms to work. They have to come there and then wear it. Right. And likewise, they have to wash their hands, sanitize it every time they get a new client. So this we keep on monitoring, yes, and it is difficult at times to be, but now they have consciously understood the risk of it, and it has become a part of their lifestyle. And thanks to COVID, I'm sure, I told them this will all remain forever, with or without COVID. This is going to be our way we are operating. So we are doing our best. So far, we haven't had any issues with client coming and saying that because we came there, touch wood. I hope it remains like that.
I'm sure it will, yeah.
And with all...
Dr. Sanjay, just one point I wanted to make, because you are in the diagnostic space. So one of the things that I fear actually is the fact that this, like Mrs. Mohan actually mentioned, is that there are a lot of cases of asymptomatic employees across the value chain, right up from salons to retail stores. There are millions of people out there, right? So what is actually happening is the fact that we did a pilot experiment of saying the fact that let's do a PCR test for all, right? So we covered the whole of Bombay, and then we actually said we'll slowly, progressively do it across all the country once a month. Now, in the first pilot that we actually did, and I just want to be upfront about it, we actually realized that about 6 to 7% of employees who did not figure that they had symptoms were asymptomatic, and we had to completely shut down clinics for a period of at least 7 days to kind of recycle the entire thing. Now, what's happening is, my worry is that our sample size, the way we are thinking about it, potentially there is nobody in our business who is positive. But if you actually do a proper test, you might realize that 5 to 6% of your employees might be asymptomatic, because the amount of travel that they do in and out of the clinic is also the time when they are not highly protected, right?
Absolutely.
So the question that is there is, at what point do we see that there is an opportunity to do it so quickly that we could potentially do more testing much faster to safeguard both our employees as well as our customers? So I don't know what your view is on that, maybe.
No, it's a good question. It's a tough question to address because of the limitations also. But what we advocate is that, see, there are 3 types of tests which are available. There is the 2 tests which actually detect the presence of the virus, and one which detects the antibodies. So the antigen test and the PCR test are the ones which detect presence of the virus. The PCR test is the gold standard, and currently we are able to turn around that test. If we get it early morning, we are able to turn it around in 12 hours.
12 hours, yeah.
Yes. The antigen test generally is used if you are symptomatic and it comes positive, that for sure it is, but it can give you a false negative much higher than the PCR test. What we advocate is to do a antibody screening test as a first baseline screening, and all those people who are antibody positive, have been exposed to the virus.
Do a PCR.
And in our follow-up, we have seen that the antibody titers generally remain for at least 4 to 5 months. We have not seen people where the antibody titer has gone down in the first 4 to 5 months. So first would be to do a screening of the antibody tests, identify all those who have been exposed and have developed antibody. The remaining who are antibody negative, then those can be they are vulnerable, they can be exposed, so they need to be monitored more carefully periodically. Maybe it depends on the frequency that you choose, and now that the government of India has brought down the pricing significantly, it's far more affordable to do the PCR test more frequently as well.
Yeah, I think we actually exactly went with the same course now, saying the fact that an antibody test multiple times over is easier. At the same time, if it's proven to be antibodies on the person, then do a PCR test just as a confirmatory to make sure the fact that the person is still not under the virus.
Actually, if antibodies have developed, most likely the IgG or the total antibodies, then you don't need to do the PCR if the person is asymptomatic.
Okay.
Can I just add something here?
This is very valuable information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just add something here?
Please.
Yes, Sachin.
Yeah. So this is as far as the testing is concerned, right? So in even before you come to this, we were telling all our people that the safety of the salon actually begins from the house of the customer and from the house of my employee. So we went into details of what is it that we want you to do from the time you wake up till you freshen up and make sure hygiene and so on and so forth. But one of the things that we realized is, take for example our employees, right? Now, a lot of them are staying in houses sizes of which will be smaller than what you and me stay in. There are more number of members. There are more constraints they live in than what we do. And more importantly, in the early days, there was this thing saying, if you turn around and say you had symptoms, for safety, we would say stay at home. So the worry, because everybody wants their livelihood, right? So for worry that, oh my God, what will happen if I say I have symptoms, somebody will tell me to stay home, what happens to my, when do I come back to work then? So what we realized this, and the first thing we put together was, we said, if there is anybody, not just you, but if anybody at home that you are living with has symptoms, how do we make sure that you make it comfortable for you to share that? So we had a policy where we did 2-3 things. And one of the things we did was these things, and all of our protocols were done with the help of Dr. Sanjay and his team. We put together a thing called Mera Doctor. So Mera Doctor was an initiative where we had a doctor who understood COVID and was involved in the treatment of it on the panel. And anybody who had systems had access to the doctor, and the call happened with the first call happened along with the HR person and this person and the doctor, where they discussed what exactly was happening. Second, and so she told us what to follow. Second thing we said, if you, not just you, but you or anybody at home is going through systems for which Mera Doctor says, stay at home or do this test or take precautions, then for the next 14 days, we created something called COVID leave. And for the next 14 days, you get paid leave. So if we make sure that your finances and your job and everything you don't have worries on that score, then people will be forthcoming and tell you that, my dad is not feeling too well or something like that. And with this understanding and by opening up, by creating a COVID leave policy, by creating a My Doctor initiative, and I must tell you at this juncture how much grateful we are to Dr. Sanjay and his team, because they've been actually backing us on each and every one of these moves.
Sachin, the only challenge the only challenge is the fact that I think the asymptomatic nature of some of these infections. In fact, the entire family is not showing any infection.
No, Rajiv, I'm saying for the testing per se, your question to Dr. Sanjay very valid about what tests, and so that has to be done. I am saying, but there was issues where even if somebody is
Yes.
symptomatic, they won't say.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
at a time when, as a team, you're together trying to battle something, and one person drops his guard, the whole salon comes down for a fortnight. You
Absolutely.
want the team to feel comfortable to be able to open up and say, you know what, something like this is happening, I need help. That is
Correct.
where I was coming from.
Correct.
Not
Okay,
to take away
okay,
anything from
sure.
the testing in the thing.
Okay.
So Dr. Sanjay, just to recap, you said it makes sense to do the antigen
Antibody,
testing
antibody, yeah.
regularly,
Antibody testing.
Antibody.
antibody testing regularly. If somebody is shows positive in that, then you do the.
If somebody is
Yeah.
positive, then that becomes,
Yeah.
for that person remains safe.
Yeah.
The other team members,
Other people can get
and then
it.
you need to be more proactive with them and following up with the PCR test.
Yeah. So we are following that protocol now, pan India. Now doing the antibody test and then, if required, doing a PCR test.
Sure.
Post that.
Absolutely.
And thankfully, the PCR test cost has come down now again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this question can be to Veer and then to everybody about, have you made any infrastructure changes like air conditioning or reducing the number of seats? Any infrastructural changes that any of you have made? So maybe you can start and then others can answer on that.
I mean, I think the infrastructure changes were in certain spaces, in certain areas, were mandated by the government regulations themselves, but
Right.
also per se from our own end, let's say, depending on the size of places that we had, we fortunately work in slightly larger spaces where we do not have really do much, but the spacing. For example, we have the rooms, we have the chairs, and we have a waiting area. This is typically the how a saloon setup is. So the on this hair, the places where there are chairs, where the hair side is, so we were alternating. So therefore, effectively using only 50% of the space in that, and that continues to be till date. Now, as far as the rooms are concerned, you didn't have to do a social distance because they were physically anyway barricaded from the other rooms per se. But there has been a natural downslide in terms of services which are happening within the rooms at this point in time, in terms of skin services and everything else, which are of course gradually picking up now. But one thing was very clear, like everybody else said, that we didn't want anybody to wait in the waiting area. That remains a complete no-no. So we're just bringing in everybody or by appointment basis. We are not pampering them through the special drinks like the Kaya drink, and we similarly have our headmaster's drink. So we just completely put a stop to it. So everything, everything. The max that you gave to a consumer is a bottle of water, small bottle of water, and nothing else. Everything else gone to disposable stuff. And wherever there's a need to put some barricades in between, sort of plexiglasses in between, that has happened. Eminently, I mean, of course, the usual stuff of wearing PPE kits and your masks and shields and all of that, ensuring people temperature, measuring the temperature of every consumer who is coming in. That's a continuous record for both the staff and all the consumers that are coming in. So we're just putting all of those measures are completely very much there. We did start initially with the Arogya, the app, but I mean, between you and me, we just sort of kind of given that up because people switch it off, and I didn't find that so much useful. But this is exactly what we are doing, and so far we've been lucky. We haven't had any sort of an episode wherein we found that somebody has come. I mean, any of our staff members have been affected, or any consumer who came in and look, I got infected. I was serviced by this customer. We have been lucky to that extent at this point in time.
Sure.
But yes, keeping our eyes and ears open. I mean, it's the usual stuff of ensuring everything is sanitized and do whatever we were doing earlier also, but doing a slightly better and precautious manner. Really, that's it.
I think for sorry,
we can ask her to answer first. Maybe I can.
Yeah, I think Veer has pretty much covered most of the points, and we are doing the same. And he has left everything answered. But yes, this cleaning, the sanitization, everything is being monitored. Now we sort of get it monitored. We get the salon managers going on rounds, checking if the bins have been cleared and everything. And we are already, as I told you, every 2 hours the videos are uploaded so that even we, not being in the salon, At any point of time, we can see what is done, what they are doing, and we sometimes say, why is the mask is not put for the thing, or why haven't you worn the gown? We correct them over the phone, over the call after seeing the video. So we are doing our best, and even to make sure that even our housekeeping is also well protected, they are being taken care of. And of course, one more thing I wanted to say, that we also encourage and make sure that all our staff by taking medicines for immunity like vitamins and as well as calcium. We have made it mandatory that they should have one a day before they come to work.
Okay.
We help them to do that,
Okay.
so that they get that immunity level and also feel better and healthier. It's been
Right.
done to all the domestic staff also. They all get their dose in the morning. They're supposed to have it.
So I have a couple of questions. One for you, Sachin. Actually, it's addressed to me and then to all of us. Actually, that most salons today charge the customer for the safety kit.
Yeah.
The kit includes a robe, a head mask, gloves, face mask, and foot covers. The customer wears all of this only from the front desk to the service room. One obviously cannot take a service with all of these. Is it essential to wear all the gear, or only a face mask is enough?
Can I?
Yeah, please. It's for you, Sachin, first.
Yeah. So one of the things we did was we put together entire safety kit. Okay, and this was done by keeping in mind the BWSSI, the Medical Council of India. I remember even our team running it past eminent diagnostics people such as yourself. But the whole idea of this was we are uniquely placed in the sense that we need to guarantee safety of two parties, of our team member and of the customer. Therefore, in our system, we have the PPE kit for both of them. Okay, and we have it for both of them, and it is something that I think we must be on version 4 now, because it's a continuous thing.
Sure.
So whatever we find something new, the other thing that we do is, initially we got this feedback that customers said that the big question was, should they pay for it or should they not? And we said they should pay for it. We will make sure that they pay what it costs us and nothing more. But fact of it is, you need safety, and safety costs. And the cost of the safety kit is actually a minor fraction of what it costs to keep the entire infrastructure safe.
Sure.
So 50% capacity and 50% usage also has a cost to it, and all of that incremental protocol.
Sure.
But what we've done is, it's not just so we got these questions, doc, saying if she's going to do a 15-minute service, does she still need to do that? So our thing was that if one person slips their guard even for one time, you're putting everybody at risk. So it's not a question of one service or two service.
True.
But what we tried to do was, as a part of that kit, we also included, we realized that sanitizers at one time had gone short. So we had procured sanitizers. We put a sanitizer bottle in as a part of the kit. We put a set of masks as a part of the kit. We put a touchless key as a part of the mix. So that while the customer paid for this, it had those PPE kits and gloves and footwear and all that, but it also had stuff that they could take back home. That was number 2. Number 3, as our sourcing of this became cheaper, we reduced the cost of it. Number 3, we said, now what we are doing is, we are saying this is what the PPE kit costs. Initially, we would say, if somebody is coming just for a threading, you pay for the PPE kit, the threading is complimentary from our side. Because it felt weird to say you pay 3 times the cost of the service that you're coming for. But now what we are saying is, you pay for the PPE kit, I will give you a cashback for it. So we've turned that into something where there is some part of it you use there, some part of it you take home,
sure,
and we give you a reason to come back. So it's like, the last part that changed, I think, last week, and we are continuously looking for how to make sure that kit holds relevance, keeps on having the latest and whatever that there is, because we believe it is something that is here to stay at least for the foreseeable future.
Sure.
So we need to make sure customers get used to it and our teams get used to it.
Rajiv, I have a question.
That's a brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea.
Mhm.
Good tip.
Yeah.
So Rajiv, there's a question
Yeah.
for you. It says, I have been a Kaya client since 2009.
Yeah.
I have a question in regards to laser hair sessions. Does the person doing the procedure wear fresh PPE for each client? Are the rooms being fumigated and sanitized in between clients? And what exact sterilization process is used to sterilize the laser hair removal equipment?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think all technicians who are doing this service are using Citra certified PPE. So it's not just any PPE; it's absolutely the best in class that we actually use for this. Every machine goes through a sanitization process after every service, as does the entire room get sanitized after every service. We have portable UVC lamps. The PPE gear doesn't get changed after every service. After every 3 hours, it gets changed. But that goes into, while this, from one service to another service, it actually goes through a 10-minute UVC sanitization and then gets worn. After every 3 hours, the kit actually gets replaced. Doctors are changing kits every time they are doing any penetrative service like injectable. So that's how they actually do. All of the uniforms of staff go through UVC sanitization every single day after it actually comes washed. Machines in particular, where the contact actually happens with customers, are completely sanitized after every procedure. There are cartridges and there are various other equipment. There are some of our competitors sometimes reuse some of those cartridges. We actually dispose of those cartridges after every service. So I think every care that is possible to take, we definitely take.
That's very reasonable.
Doc, I have a question to ask at the same time for you. You're from the medical world, while we, obviously because of circumstances, are taking extra precautions. But quite frankly speaking, if you ask me, I mean, while all this has become it's in the domain of discussions at this point in time, health and safety. Frankly speaking, if you look at many businesses many of the businesses, salon businesses or the diagnostic businesses, they had been frankly taking all these precautions well before even COVID as well. I mean, the only thing that has happened, as Lata ma'am said, that we are now monitoring is everything being sanitized. We were all doing all this all along.
True.
I'm asking this: have we become so pedantic, and are we overdoing stuff? Frankly speaking, because it's costing. It's at the expense of creating fright amongst the consumers. B, I mean, it's frankly speaking, a lot of stuff is probably not worthwhile, if you ask me. Really, this is my personal feeling. Of course, we're taking all the precautions and everything else.
Sure.
And if you look at today, I mean, while business expects it to do everything else, I mean, you have political campaigns going on where there's no social distancing norm. Goodness heavens! I mean, you go in the marketplaces today in the festival situation. You see everywhere all of that is being nothing of that sort. But it's not. I'm asking that you would know it from a medical perspective. Are we being too pedantic? I'm putting this question off to you.
No, absolutely. I think it's a valid question, and let me answer it slightly differently. Before COVID came on board, there's something which we, as healthcare professionals, follow. It's called universal precautions. So universal precautions, as Mrs. Mohan said, are that's something which we have been following from time immemorial. So gloves, sanitization. So for HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C, there is something that we need to follow, which is universal precautions, because those are all bloodborne infections. The challenge with COVID is that it is airborne, and that's what brings in that different element to it. Initially, it was thought that COVID is spread through droplets, that the droplets will fall and somebody will touch those droplets and then it will get transmitted. But that is actually now, we have evolved from that concept that now it is more airborne, and where a mask is going to be the primary source of protection. And the mask that I wear is going to protect you, and the mask that you wear is going to protect me. So the idea is that mask becomes an essential part of what we call as universal precaution. Mask, gloves, and some sort of a distance. If you are in close contact, try and minimize the contact. If you are going to be in close contact, then a mask and a shield with gloves perhaps becomes a basic essential now for universal precautions. So I think there is still, as you said, we are still evolving in our knowledge of the spread of the virus. It used to be droplet, now it is airborne. Some people say the droplets can last for so many hours, then they say so many hours. So I think there's still learning that we are going. But I think wearing a mask, and if you're going to be in close contact for a longer period, mask, gloves, and a face shield, those become, basic, essential, protective requirements. I think that's something which should be done without any, contest on that. Absolutely.
I think being extra cautious at this time, I think just also gives that extra sense of assurance to consumer. Because I think
Yes.
between the consumer and us, we don't know the whole story as well. I mean, we're talking to an eminent doctor here with diagnostics background, and we still believe the fact that we all still don't know the full story on the virus. So I think right now we are all doing it. I think we are going on an overdrive only to give that extra sense of assurance to a client that we are doing our best to provide it. I think science is completely not, we don't have all the answers at the moment.
Very true, very true. So let me end one question to each of you. Last question is, with this upcoming festive season, any thoughts, any parting thoughts? And maybe we can start with Sachin, then go to Rajiv,
Yeah.
and Mrs. Mamohan, and we can end with Veer.
So you're saying thoughts on what, Dr. Sanjay?
The upcoming festive season, which definitely is the busiest time of the year for most salons. The next 2-3 weeks augur to be, busy time for salons. So, any thoughts on how the salons are preparing themselves for the next 2-3 weeks?
I think salons have been prepared for the last 6 months, and frankly, see, eventually the customers will come when they feel comfortable. So we need to respect that, and we need to make sure that we do whatever we can to be able to do that. Just a few minutes before we got onto the call, when we were chatting, I heard from Veer that in the last fortnight there's been a very interesting spike up in the footfalls and the revenue up north, and I'm very happy to hear that, and I'm hoping that the same thing happens for all of us. From our side, I think from the side of the salon industry, I think we are more prepared as a whole domain. As a whole domain, we are more prepared than we were ever before. We've taken more, and we are taking more precautions than we ever have before. And the most heartening thing is not what we are doing. The most heartening thing is, in the last, I think, except Maharashtra, the rest of India has been up and about. The salons have been up and about for over 5 months. Maharashtra has been up and about over 4 months. So what it means is, between 125 days and 150 days, that salons have been functioning. There is zero evidence anywhere that there has been any spike or anything that you can attribute to the salon. So what it means is that the assurances that the industry gave, or the coming together and closing ranks and saying we will all follow properly, is something I feel very glad to say that each and every one of us is doing. And I get reminded of the first beauty safety pledge that we put out, and we said, where each one of us did that, and we said, I will follow all of these protocols because it's a question of my life and my customer's life, and more importantly, it's a question of our livelihood. And I think each one in the industry is taking that very seriously, which is why we are seeing that 4 months and 5 months down the line, things are very much solid and very much in control. And I'm hoping that people who have still not ventured into salons hear all this, come to know of all this, and they realize that it's actually a good idea to step back to the salons, because और अभी तो जैसे कह रहे हैं कि मौका भी है और दस्तूर भी है. So everything points out to the fact that you should be back at the salons and the clinics when the festivities are on.
Rajiv, your thoughts?
I won't add too much more. I think Sachin summed it up well. But I think sequentially we have seen a fairly large uptick between July till today, which almost tells you from a 30% level of confidence, it's reached 70% level of confidence. Right. That balance 30 will always be questionable in India for the next few months till such time some reasonable assurances come in. But I think given the fact that consumer demand is actually there, the online shopping is already showing that people really want to spend. I think we have given the necessary assurances over the last 4 to 5 months, and consumer confidence is improving tremendously. But whether it will be exactly at Diwali as normal, honestly, we can't believe that will happen. But I think to a large extent, we have built a good base over the last 4 months to capitalize on the next quarter. That's what we think.
Thank you, Rajiv. Mrs. Mohan?
Yeah, my take on this is the growth has been there slowly and steadily, and we are looking at a better numbers during this festive seasons. But having said that, now I see our clients who used to come, our regular clients used to come at least almost every week of a week, couple of times a week, are slowly falling into the pattern, and they're coming almost every week. The number of visits to the salon has been more frequent, which is also a encouraging thing for us, because their confidence level is building. They're coming in and they've seen that everything is going as per the norms, and they are also satisfied. So the number of visits of our regular clients, as well as the number of services they have done. They started with basic services. Now slowly they are moving on to more. I have to say, even facials are slowly coming up, and they started doing facials. And let us hope for the best, but it's going to be a long time to get where we were before. But I think the growth is very encouraging.
Sure.
And our staff is also being rewarded, because they also are wanting their extra money. All of us want. So when more clients come, they also get their tips and their all those things. So things are a better, happier situation now. And they keep telling me, don't worry, it'll pick up. Don't worry, be happy. We are working. We are there for you. So that is a very, very positive thing that I get. And it's good. It's looking good. And I think people should feel confident and start coming to the salons. Seeing is believing, as I said earlier. They should come and experience, and then by word of mouth, definitely it will build up.
Sure. Last comments from you, Veer?
Yeah, by and large, everything has been captured. But I would say, I think the fact is that everything which has gone down, which we're absolutely at zilch, and obviously things have to move up, only will slide upwards. And also that's primarily from the fact that consumers they have sufficient information now today what this means. Probably from when it happened on 22nd of March or 23rd of March to what we know today, consumers know what it is all about. They also know what precautions they have to take on their own, whether the saloon takes any precaution or not. They're well versed with that. And another thing is that we peaked up to about 90,000 cases a day only a month back, to a drop to going down to 50,000. Is a curve going down, is naturally building that sort of confidence that I think people are saying that, look, listen, this is a new normal, but we got to live this new normal. We got to practice safe practices, and we need to step out. We need to step. And that is exactly what is helping all the business people that we are all sitting here. It's allowing us to kind of enjoy that. But yes, we got to reap the benefit. We got to keep our guard up. That's about all we have to do. We don't have to do anything over dramatic, but just be patient with it and then figure it out.
I just want to sum up with one thing. Now my clients are saying, yes, we have to live with it. So we have decided, let's go and do what we feel like.
Yeah,
and feel it's a very positive thing. They've said enough is enough. Some of the clients have told us that. How long can we live in this fear? We want to go out and do it.
I want to give you another interesting tip, but that's quite exciting. I mean, whether I call it innovation or this is some crazy idea, we used to run a certain particular kind of music across our salons, all of this. But I've deliberately switched that music in the last.
I think we'll need to find out what music is about. Anyway, so thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Mr. Mohan. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you for bringing this panel together, Sachin especially. And I think if Veer can...
Sorry. I just came
back.
What's
the music?
Sorry, I just lost you. But I just tell you, this is an interesting thing. I deliberately because there is so much samba environment. Everything else is just downbeat, doesn't look interesting, doesn't look... I just deliberately put that hip-hop so people come in,
Good tip. We are very much clued on to music.
I mean, the first thing.
I think he's having internet
Yeah.
issues, but I think what he's trying to say
Yeah.
is that I
Sure.
think
Keep the mood level up.
Keep the mood buoyant.
the mood has to be upbeat. I think
Yeah.
all the precautions have been taken. The experience is in favor of safety. There's no untoward incident that has happened either for the staff or for the customers. And I think things are just looking better overall. The COVID numbers are also coming down. I think the mood has to be good outside and inside, as long as we keep our guard up and we keep our, basic precautions in place. We keep following the right norms. Things will look better for us. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
For you to join us. Thank you for sparing your time, and I'm sure a lot of people would have benefited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay safe. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you so
Sanjay.
much, Doc.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for doing this for us.
Bye,
Really
bye, all of
appreciate
you.
it.
Bye, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope it will encourage more people to sort of shed their fear and come
Absolutely.
out.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.